Hey parents, my name is Jeff Pruder and I am your Students English 9 teacher this year. What you're currently looking at is one of my new goals for the year, which is to kind of increase parent communication. I've always sent out emails and links and you'll still kind of get those things. But I want to start trying to create these videos and send them out at the start of a new unit, or if I can be better than that, every week or two, really with kind of one big goal. That way you know what we're doing and most importantly why we're doing it. So today I want to tell you a little bit about our first unit, our success unit. I'll also roll in a few things that we talked about at curriculum night, especially for those of you who couldn't join us last week. So I want to start by talking about this first unit, the success unit. It's a great place for us to start in English 9, and we'll talk a little bit about why. One of the big ones, of course, is just the importance of growth mindset. For some of your students, they're coming in and they love English, they love reading, they love writing, and if that is your student, they're in a great place. And we've got so much great stuff coming their way in terms of literature and writing assignments and speaking opportunities, all of those wonderful things. If your student is on the opposite end of that, then we need to make sure we talk a little bit about growth mindset as well. And certainly if they're kind of caught in the middle, maybe they've had some really positive experiences, maybe they've lost a love of reading and writing a little bit, we want to talk a little bit about the importance of being gritty in the English classroom, but also beyond. So it's a great place for us to start freshman year for a variety of those reasons. So we're going to be taking a look at what successful people do, how they navigate challenges, and why that's important. What is it that we can take away from there? That's going to be one of our big goals. Where do we go to learn about that? We're looking at a wide variety of texts, which is really, really exciting. We started by watching a TED Talk, a short 6-minute speech from Angela Lee Ducksworth, all about the importance of grit, because she found that successful individuals, whether that's students or Marines or people in the spelling bee, whatever it is, that the most successful aren't always the most intelligent or the most physically gifted. There's this extra element, and that's grit. So we talked a lot about what grit means and what that looks like. So we're doing TED Talks. Last week we turned to the New York Times. We also are coming to a piece from the New Yorker this week, so we're reading some really challenging texts, which is really exciting. We also listened to a podcast, which was really new for some students. We listened to a podcast about the true story of Maya Shankar, who was on the path to be a concert violinist and tour the world and make unreal money, and then all of a sudden things had to change, and she had to go in a totally different direction due to an injury, and really kind of restart things. We talked a little bit about her growth mindset and how she found a way to navigate those challenges. So we're talking about important things that really matter at the high school level, but we're also reading and viewing and listening to some really challenging texts, which is really great. Because on that end, we're learning to read and listen and view at a high school level. What does it mean to navigate a text? And where this builds us to is what's happening towards the end of this week, which is a really important word, which is synthesis. That's something you have to do at the high school level. Synthesis is just the idea of taking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things and putting them together. And that's what high school students are asked to do. Read and examine 4, 5, 6 pieces, and then based on that, make their own claim and go back to all of those pieces, put them together as support. That's a big challenge. And so towards the end of this week, they're going to start doing that in very low-risk type ways. And I'll send something out a little bit more about that as we get closer. And eventually that leads us to a little bit larger of a project. That seems a little bit more summative, just in the terms of it being reading, writing, and speaking based. More details to come on that. But we're really excited with where we're at with our success unit, because we're working on that synthesis and we're learning how to write from multiple texts. That's kind of been one of the final pieces that I wanted to bring up, one of the final two. We're learning to write from text. We spent a lot of time last week going through what a good paragraph looks like. That's something that students are still struggling with, and we want to make sure that whether it's for English class or history or something else that they have to write for, that they just know what a good solid paragraph looks like. Like, what does that actually mean? I think we need to kind of slow down and go through that. So we've been talking about the role of evidence and why we build in reasoning, how that reasoning adds flavor to our paragraph, and kind of going through some of those things. So the success unit, on one level is all about success, but as you work your way through, it allows us to work on a lot of different skills. The last thing I wanted to bring up to close out for today is our independent reading work. Students are reading 3 times a week in this class for about 15 minutes, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Every student has an independent reading book. Most of them checked out a book from my classroom library. We have over 300 titles in there. Most of those are young adult, award-winning fiction. So that's really great. And certainly some students also brought in text from home. We know that reading really, really matters. For people who read on average 20 minutes a day, they fall in the 90th percentile for their reading scores. But if that's not your student, if that idea of my student is not going to read for 20 minutes a day, what do I do? We also know, and I'm going to include this in the email that gets sent out with this video, that taking wherever they're at, whether that is they're reading for 10 minutes a day, 0 minutes a day, that if we can increase that by 10 minutes, it makes a huge, huge difference. In fact, students who read 10 minutes a day tend to fall in the 70th percentile, just 10 minutes a day. That's really, really kind of an easy ask for our students. So we provide 15 minutes 3 days a week. I bring this up to you because we need a little bit of help with that. We certainly can't provide reading opportunities every single day, at least not at this point. We still have so much that we need to get through. But that can become something that they can do at home. So the question is, how do you encourage that, especially if you don't have a big reader? One is that big word of encourage. We need reading to be pleasurable, and so we've gotten really good readings, hopefully, in their hands. Ask them about what they're reading. If you don't know what your student is reading for his or her independent reading book, that is your homework for this evening. Go ask that question, and then ask the follow-up question of, what do you like about it, and why? Why are you liking it? What brought you to that book? And if they're not liking it, then you have a chance to follow up and say, why not? And should maybe you go find another book? There's too much good stuff out there to have them stuck reading something that they're not enjoying. The other thing, though, is we need to build that pattern. As we said, 10 minutes a day, let alone if we can get to 15 or 20, would make a huge difference. So finding ways to schedule that into their day would be a great, great thing, whether that's 10 minutes after dinner, whether that's 10 minutes before bed, if it's the 10 minutes they get home right after school before they start homework, or whether they relax and play video games, like whatever their thing is. That stuff's important too, but 10 minutes is not that big of an ask. And if they're already doing a little bit of reading, to increase that an extra 10 would go a long, long way. I know people are busy. I know people are doing sports and they're involved with the play, and there's a million things going on, volunteer work. I'm coaching, I know, I get it. But if we can carve out at least 10 minutes and then try and bump that to 15 and then eventually to 20, it makes a huge, huge difference. And the thing that's going to really help drive that home is if sometimes you're willing to sit next to them and read, curl up on that couch either with a book or the newspaper, a magazine, and it doesn't always have to be fiction. ESPN has really, really good writers. Read some interesting argument pieces, and then pass those on to your kids. And of course, that's just one example of many that we could pull. But some of kind of what we've tried to capture here today in this quick video is just what we try and do in here and why. I'll try and make the other videos a little bit shorter, but I'm also trying to roll in a few things that we talked about from Wednesday. Folks, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you have any feedback on the video, please let me know. And check out some of the extra links that I'm sending with it as well. I'm excited to be communicating with you this year through this, but also through email or any other means. And I look forward to meeting more of you soon. Have a great